new tool to walk around in your model, in your ship or any plant or whatever. And by clicking the object, you will get the data, whatever is needed. There's no need to have heavy, expensive 3D applications to run this one. This is a preview tool where you can very easily fly around and get the information from different data sources. The tools what we provide for this one, the eShare I already mentioned, the information portal for all data. We have also a portable version called Ego, so same information or system you can have on tablet. For example, if you want to go on site or you want to go to your ship engine room or wherever, you can have related documents what you need to check certain object on your tablet. No need to have paper copies, anything. You can do all the work on your tablet, put some comments, so on, see the documents, and update the data to your databases. And we have an e-browser, just a simple review tool. So the basic concept is having the digital window to digital project through the 3D model, and whatever databases you have, documents management, ERP, maintenance, whatever database can be linked to that 3D model, so the information is available. This goes two ways. So for example, you can go from 3D model to document, or you document, you click the object, it opens the 3D model, shows exactly the location, and also the links to the all other external databases. Not only having the linked data, but of course the 3D model having the internal data, what was built during the design and engineering phase. And these 3D models can be done either with Cadmatic design application softwares or other solutions also. So it's not necessarily needed to be Cadmatic model to run these our information management solutions. Our customer using our competitors' models as well to run this one. So not only having links to the databases, but you can also see online operational data, maintenance data, be visualized in your 3D model. You can also color coding different things according to status, see it gives you more clear picture of what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and access to all 3D and 2D data, what is already mentioned. Just a few user cases to give you an idea how this can be used. Schelde is the shipyard using it, so that they have the 3D model from Cadmatic, then they have their own ERP system. They have also building status databases, RFID database, I don't know what this is, but it's something. The team center for document data, all these are linked through this eShare. And also Primavera, the diagram process database and work preparations can be visualized and seen as well. So all kind of data. Another example from totally different kind of company, and this is from plant side, but you might recognize the company. They are using our eShare so that they have linked databases from their corrosion control system. They, according to that, the wall thickness of pipes, they do some risk analyzing that can be visualized in eShare. They have their operational systems and SAP all connected information available through the eShare. And the initial 3D model is from PDS model. Okay, this was very short because I know and I can see that you want to go to coffee break, as we all do. But we have a stand outside, and there me and our technical experts can give you more detailed information. We can also show you in live demonstration about our 3D design application and this eShare solution. So please visit our stand or just come to me if you have any further questions. Thank you very much.
We'll be having a tea break, tea break right now, and we will be back by 12:15. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our next distinguished speaker is Mr. Amarendra Kumar, Project Manager for the MVGL. Amarendra has 18 years of work experience as a highly organized naval architect and project manager, and currently working with the MVGL, in-depth knowledge of design, design approval, rule development and construction of drilling jack-up rigs, wind turbine installation vessels and lift boats. Please put a warm welcome for Mr. Amandra Kumar.
I hope you had a nice break, and thank you Eris for providing this opportunity. I am basically a structural engineer, but what I will talk today is very bit different from what I do regularly. As we know, in this digital world, every company in our sector, like maritime, they are trying to do something and see what they can explore out of this new technology. We as a DNVGL, we have faced lot of challenge by the shipyards, by the owners. Like if you have a 5-year renewal plan, actually there are no scientific basis to make this 5-year mandatory renewal survey scheme. So we as a DNVGL, we are trying to see how we can come up with a new method which is acceptable to the industry. So I think most of the methods which I am going to present, it's still in developing phase. Maybe some of them have been already implemented, or some of them are in piloting stage. Yeah, so today data is the new raw material of business, like oil. Oil we used to refine and process it for the use. Same thing we have to do with the data. We as a classification society, we have lot of data in-house from the shipyards, from the OEMs, from the ship owners, and we are trying to see how we can process this data to use in the survey schemes. These are some of the news which came in the media. I think we signed some contract with Bahri Shipping for data sharing, and same with the Wilhelmsen. In our industry, everyone is generating some kind of data, whether it's a sensor data or whether it's a control data, or whether there is some survey data, or there is a design drawings, like owner, manufacturer, service provider, regulator, operator, everyone is generating some kind of data. To highlight some of the people who have already started working in this area, I think owner, operators, I think Mas, BP, Transocean, Shell, Bahri, ADNOC, Saudi Aramco, they have their own digital team which they are trying to implement what they can do. Similarly, all main classification society, they are also looking how to develop new technology in digital solutions. And then there are some third party like Arundo, Aptomar, Mana, but they are not very known to us. Then there are advisory firms, Accenture, Cognizant, TCS, Infosys, but they lack domain knowledge in our field. Then we have software technology, Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, Amazon, IBM. They are basically the database provider. Like Microsoft is providing Azure, then Oracle has SAP. I will try to show some videos on nerves of a steel, which we are trying to develop.
Are taken without consideration of where a ship has been operated, seamanship or maintenance strategy. We are using datasets along with vessel characteristics to create models that accurately forecast the condition of the hull from delivery until today.
2 sister vessels returning to port require inspection. Currently that decision is not made on facts. Data can change that. The red shows steel which has been highly utilized. Therefore, any decisions about maintenance or inspections can be based on real information.
Dry docking is an expensive process, and it is therefore positive if smarter decision making can be applied. If damage is discovered on board one vessel, instead of bringing in all the sister vessels, you may only need to inspect those that have experienced similar or worse sea conditions. Such information would also be important for asset valuation, conversions, lifetime extensions and insurance premiums.
DNVGL has created models for different vessel types, and these can be verified and calibrated by onboard sensors which measure the stress on the hull. Another input comes from DNVGL's vast catalogue of survey data that it collated through the years from its class experience. All this data is sent to DNVGL's Veracity platform, allowing real-time analysis and therefore influencing a captain's decision-making process or supporting the shoreside team in the longer term.
Put simply, this is the end of dumb steel. The beauty of using Veracity is that it brings together all the different datasets, allowing the creation of a digital twin. This in turn makes decision-making more reliable and efficient, reducing the damage risk for the vessel hull, cargo and crew.
Basically what we are trying to achieve is we will have a lot of sensors on the ships or offshore units, sensor for the motions, sensor for the waves, and we will try to see, we will try to analyze this sensor data and see whether really the inspection is required or not. As per today, we have like mandatory requirement, every 5 years you have to bring the ships into the dry dock, whether you have the damage or not, whether the equipment needs the maintenance or not. Rather than in the new technology, we will analyze the data in the office, and if it is really required, then you have to bring the ships in the dry dock. Take an example of a modern container ship. I think you have sensor fitted on generators, control systems, propellers, and all these sensors, they are generating some kind of data which can be used for maintenance. These data can be uploaded on the cloud, which our people can access in the office. They will analyze and then they will advise accordingly. Yeah. The other project we are working on is model based approval. At the moment, a designer or a owner has to submit lot of drawings related to a structural, machinery, safety system or electrical system. That we are trying to see whether we can just take the 3D model from a designer or the owner, we can approve it. So there is a pilot project going on, and how it will work is we will provide the platform like Veracity. That platform is cloud based. This designer or the owners, they can submit their model on that platform, and then approval engineer in the office, they will verify the model. If there is a comment, the comment will go to the owner designer, then he rectifies, and then the approval is done. It's basically cyclic. By doing this, I think we will save a lot of cost on the approval time, and then the quality and transparency will also increase in the approval. On the digital solution side, if you look the left side, I think these are 4 or 5 things they are already running in our company. It's my DNVGL dashboard. Basically, owner will get access for all his ships. This dashboard will give you all the details like about the ship's dimensions, ship's notations, and there is any pending comments on the ships. There is any pending documents on the that needs to be submitted or to be approved. So all the owner and shipyard they will have this dashboard. Then we have date service. This is basically direct access to technical experts. You need some clarification regarding the flag or the class rules. You can directly write to us through date. And we make sure that every email or the question is replied within 4 hours. Then we have a service running drone surveys. Suppose if you are not able to do the survey, then normal survey, then we have this facility available. We can try to see. Then we have now we are issuing digital certificate instead of those hard copies. Then we have remote inspection facilities available. Then we have a smart survey booking. These facilities are given to the owners. This is a smart survey. Then the project which are in piloting phase are machine learning, Veracity data platform, safety insight, then sensor based class simulations and automated approvals. This is the typical dashboard every owner or a shipyard during the new build phase they will get. They will have details of the projects, the kill date, the principal dimension, then what are the documents need to be submitted, and then the comments. The owner of the shipyard, they can reply to the comment, and then there is a feature to add file as well. We have very transparent relation with owner and yard. This we already know. Then we have a Vera. This is basically a robot. This is still in pilot phase. If you need some clarification on the technical side, all the rules or the inspections or survey, you can type your questions. It will try to answer with the logic if it can find. Otherwise, it will direct you to some technical experts. The algorithm is basically based on we have scanned almost like 300,000 emails, then 1,000 design drawings, then 15 years of survey findings. But as this develops, I think we will try to include more emails, more drawings, and more reports. Then we are developing this feature where, suppose if you have a revision, you have submitted revision 0, and if there is a revision 1, this machine learning, it will try to match. I mean, and then it will highlight. Suppose changes is only 5%, so the approval engineer, he will go to directly those 5% only. At the moment, owner of the CPR, they try to put as a clouding like revision. So I think that may be not required in the future. Then we have some pilot projects for port state control, approval of drawings, digital rules, automated mapping of documentations. And then there is a pilot project going on porting condition, like if the owner or the surveyor sends some pictures of the ships or a mobile offshore units, then we are trying to develop algorithm which can tell us, okay, the coating condition is fair, good or bad, or whether it can predict the cracks by just analyzing the pictures. Then we have another tool which we have launched recently. This is vendor surveillance tool. I think one of the big jackup operator in North America, they are already using this, I think, and the feedback is very good. What it does is, like if you have hundreds of equipments, instead of a lot of ITPs and the comments and which rule will apply, what are the challenges involved with the equipment certification, we have developed a single tool where you can do everything, and it will have a dashboard. Like if some action is required, then it will highlight you. So I think this next 3 slides is like this. I think if you want to know more, I think I will direct you to some experts who can guide you. Then we are trying to develop MyRig Move. What it will do is it will have a lot of inbuilt data. This Noble Denton is a partner of DNVGL, so they have almost all the rig location data from last 100 years, and they have a lot of models for jackups. So based on this, we are trying to develop a app, MyRig Move, where owner can directly enter the location, all the details, and they can do a primary checks, like whether this is suitable or not, what will be the leg penetration, whether they will have any punch through. So that kind of prior information they will get, and then they can submit all these report to MWS directly through clouds. Then there is a SOIT, whatever the DNVGL classed ships or offshore unit, you can track the location through this link. I think this is already implemented. Then we have launched a Veracity platform. This platform is basically to upload data, and if you want to sell your data to some third parties with your acceptance, then you can sell your data on the repair maintenance record. I think this has been launched recently, and if you want to know more, I think then we can give you all the details. So what it will do is, basically it will collect, you can upload the data from ships or the platforms or a wind turbine vessels or a jackup unit. Then DNVGL expert in the office, they will assess the quality of the data, because a lot of data will come as a garbage. We need to filter it and see whether it can be used. Then this data will be used for condition based maintenance. I mean, if the unit has a lot of crack history, then I think for a sister unit it will help that, okay, we go and see that particular location only, not full inspection is required. It will help in asset autonomy, safety barrier management, and operational efficiency. Actually, the owner can reduce the cost in the operation. So in future, what we are targeting is, at the moment, if you see at the top, there is a offshore survey that consists the major chunk. Then we have audits, that is bit low, and then office support. It's in the middle. But in future, what we are trying to reduce is the basically offshore survey time. That will shrink, audit will increase, and then the office support will increase. Basically, we will be working more on the data rather than going and physically verifying. This is how the future approval and survey will work. The owner generates the data, he uploads on the cloud. The service supplier like OEMs, the equipment supplier, they can access from the cloud. The NVGL data platform, that they will also access those data from the cloud, and between DNVGL support offices it will be shared. Between the approval engineer, between the surveyors, all the data will be shared. Thank you. Any question?
Yeah, thank you. Very good presentation. I have one question regarding the classification. So you have all this data, and of course you can help the ship's owner, but you still have to follow the international IX, International Association Classification Society, which required annual survey and 5 years renewal and periodical survey and dry docking. So using all this data, how can you my first question, can you postpone the 5 years renewal or not? And what's about the annual survey?
I think the purpose is that it will be not basically 5 years. Then there is a class society, and then there is a flag requirement. So I think as far as class, we are very clear that based on the sensor data and condition-based monitoring, we will take the decision to postpone. Actually, it is already happening case-to-case basis, like 5 years becomes 6 years. But then there is a flag requirement for bottom survey and all, that once the technology is developed, I think the flag will be lenient to accept. That is what we assume. And I think some discussion might have been already taken in the higher level, that I am not aware. Otherwise, they will not proceed. So I think this 5 year will not become mandatory, but we don't know the timeline when it will happen. But case-to-case basis, especially for offshore unit, we are postponing. That like 5 years becomes 6 years based on the very minimal survey, risk-based inspections.
All right, thank you.
Hi. My question to you is, how are you going to ensure the quality and authenticity of the data? Because eventually it's garbage in, garbage out, And more often than not, we've seen, many of the sensors or many of the equipment that is being fitted tends to give out a lot of garbage. I mean, how do you ensure safety?
That's a very good question. I think we had a pilot project with Conspark. I think, and this was one of the challenges we faced. I mean, when they installed the sensor on the many of the equipments, the data which we collected, it was like billions of billions, And then we were unable to figure out. But I think this is a developing technology. As the algorithm gets stronger, the machine learning gets stronger. I think the people will find a way to eliminate the bad data. And we have a lot of domain experts available inside the company. I think they will try to figure out, what they can use, what they can know. So yes, I think that is one of the challenge. Like when you feed the sensor, you have billions of data, and then you don't know, how to do it. then your algorithm, the machine learning should be very efficient. Otherwise, it cannot be done. So all these things are still developing. I mean, but we are trying to do it. I mean, and see. Some of the things may not work in the future, that we don't know, but we are trying. Yeah.
Excuse,
Thank you.
yeah. There were two relevant queries, and I will be having concern that like multiple parties are relying on your database and classifications. You told that you are deferring 5 years survey or like a inspection for classification requirement and flag for requirement. So just want to know that the data what you are going to receive and which is not certain, that the accuracy of data are not certain. So on what background or on what basis you are deferring your surveys?
No, I think once we achieve the accuracy, then only we can postpone. I mean, that is non-negotiable. I mean, if we
On case-to-case basis, you
if we
told
cannot
case
fix that, then we cannot postpone it. Yeah. So
you cannot postpone, or you are postponing it based on case-to-case studies of a particular ship or
no, if the data has quality and if our people have analyzed and found it very correct, then only decision will be made. I mean, if we feel the data is not accurate or
just to be very specific, in last 24 months, have you postponed any of survey which required 5 years survey, and have you postponed to 6 or 7 years?
it has been done case by case basis, but it was not through the machine learning. It was mainly through the RBI, risk-based inspection, and I am not aware on the ship side. I work mainly on the offshore class side, so I think it has been done for a few of the jackups. Yes, that was based on the RBI studies. What it does is like it minimizes the inspections. Like if you take a jackup, I mean, what are the critical areas? You have the leg to spud connection, that is fatigue sensitive. Then the lower guide area and a few primary members which like longitudinal bulkheads and all. But at the moment, if you see the 5-year scheme, it tells you go and survey everything. You know, I mean, but that we have taken out many times. And then this RBI is based on some calculations also. Like if you can prove it, the particular joint will not crack for another 10-15 years. And the previous report has shown, previous inspection report is good, that all the coating conditions, the cathodes and all are maintained. Then yes, we have taken decision. But not very frequent, yes, but few cases are there.
Thank you.
It's still not very clear to me. Just for sake of clarity, are you saying certificate of class for 5 years is now going beyond the 5 years? Is that what you're saying? For this room, I need clarity because this is very serious stuff. The only initiative that was taken before by IACIS to put the 7.5-year cycle was pushed back because of the no paint guarantee would be allowing to give the ship owner more than 5 years unless it costs a significant amount of money. So this is another burden for ship owner. If I am to extend the ship certificate of class beyond 5 years, number one, IACIS rule has not changed to that. So I know for sure that is not the case. And number two, I as an operator would be very worried about being 15 or 10 times more than the quoting price just to extend for another year, let alone 2.5 years. Can you confirm to me that certificate of class of 5 years has been extended?
At the moment, no. I mean, at the moment, no.
Thank you very much.
This
Thank
technology is still developing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is what we need. We need the clarity for the people up here because we don't want to go out from the room with the impression, that it has been done.
No.
Okay,
because
thank
if you go to the equipments, all the equipment do not have the sensor which we want. I mean, if you go to the unit, like offshore unit, you don't have the motion sensor. So we don't know. I mean, unless the entire industry change, all the equipments have the sensor which class wants. The ships, what class gives you the sensor requirement, but then they have to install it. So what we are developing is a sensor-based clause. The rule will come. If you install all the sensor, all your vendor, if they install all the sensor, then yes, that is the whole purpose. Then we will go and convince the entire industry, basically the IX and the flags. And if the technology is accepted, then yes, this 5-year will be redundant. Actually, there are no scientific basis. The earlier, the problem was there was no mechanism available to sort this out. But now we have artificial intelligence, machine learning, we have a lot of sensors. So we are trying to see whether it can be done. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mandra Kumar. Our next distinguished speaker is Mr. Aftab Hassan, CEO of Arya Insurance Brokerage Company, LLC. Mr. Aftab is a professional entrepreneur with a resounding stake in energy, offshore, marine, oil and gas, IT and insurance and reinsurance sector. He has approximately 27 years of professional experience serving and leading top management teams with leading companies from India, Middle East. He is an elected representative of the committee and committee member and Secretary General on the board of Insurance Business Group, IBG, under the auspices of Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry, while serving on the board of various business groups, social and networking organizations. He has 2 bachelor degrees, one in science and other in engineering, a master's degree in business management, diploma in strategic planning, mergers and acquisitions, and certification in quality management. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Aftab Hassan.
Well, thank you very much. My suggestion would be always, I was humbled while Mr. Jamil has read the details, credentials, and it will be good, people should read it rather than, it looks like we are playing a saga of a person, of course, with the credentials. So thank you very much to give us a chance and to give me a chance here. As always, from day one, from Shiptek, I've been attached, and each year I've come with something new to talk about, whether from the marine industry, whether from insurance industry, sometime finance industry, the more technical. As I was last year speaking on cyber liability insurance, which is something which we see a buzzword in the insurance industry these days, something new. And now, this particular year, when I was invited to speak, I thought of what should we talk about. We went through the great financial crisis from 2008, and after the financial crisis, we saw that some of the insurance companies, and at the same time, they came with a lot of financial product which was some new, and some of the product which was revived with new conditions, with new terminology, and new coverages as well. But at the same time, what I feel today in this particular room, if I talk about most of you, either as professionals, whether it be shareholders, directors, and officers of the companies, they have a responsibility, and they have their own responsibility with some liabilities towards the corporate, and also sometimes to third party. So it will be good to know and highlight that what is director and officer's liability insurance and how it covers, where the origin is. I'll give a little briefing about this, because if you see the boardroom, whereas just the board members, they are responsible towards the corporate, but at the same time, this is a disclaimer, just like tomorrow you don't sue me, so I've not taken a DNO to cover myself. So, good. Let's put it this way, that the DNO in the past, like when we first heard, was 1930. And that was in US, when those days there was no directors and officer liability insurance, but directors and officers were still liable in some sense, but the general census of the people were that they are not the people who are responsible for 100% of the wrongdoing of the shareholders or the board, because there are some limitations as per their own descriptions of the job of a director. And somehow it has happened that they ended up, few of them, in the legal suits and court. And then that was only when a few insurance companies on those days, which is on the mutual basis, they came up to cover themselves. But that too, as I said, like the origin, if we go back in the 19th century, 1930, until 1960, it was not fetched properly in the market until Lloyd's came with a cover and with their policy wordings in 1960, whereas, again, that was something which was different from what it evolved in 1930. And if we talk about last 40 years, more topical with the advent of corporate governance, as we see that, we all come from here, from marine, shipping, offshore, oil and gas industry, and any other industry likewise. They all have to maintain their corporate governance, and it's a responsibility as shareholder of the company, always towards the board, towards the shareholder, towards your investors, at the same time towards your partners and customers. So those responsibility, when you are disposing your responsibility, sometimes there are unknown, which comes and then you realize that you are in a bit shit. There it comes the DNO. Now, I've given just some examples and cases such as Maxwell, if you know, and the BCCI collapse of the banks, which we know in UK, and the Enron issues which went through Volcon. These are a little bit of like, after 2008 financial crisis when Lehman Brothers, they failed and bringing down the entire subprime issues. And then we talk about Freddie Mac issue and Citibank, their stocks when they collapsed, RBS. So these are all the issues which we all have been seeing, reading, and somehow or the other, the directors and shareholders, they are responsible and they have to take in consideration hiring the lawyers, attorneys to protect themselves individually as well as corporate for their own companies. So as I said, like, some legislation as well has been updated, which was not there earlier in the Companies Act globally, internationally, and then codifying the director's duties, which has changed, again, the DNO concept. Now, if we talk about the directors and officers, as I was telling you, the managing the affairs of the corporation and through whom the corporate legally act. So basically, there is two major difference which I would like to highlight, which I would like to tell you. We all professionals, we know that there is another insurance which is professional liability insurance, which we take it. And this professional liability insurance, one might think of, that will cover yourself as the director and officer of the company, which is wrong, which is not for you to cover yourself as directors and officers of the company or shareholder of the company, because when it comes to protection for your own personal, for the corporate, and for your, even sometimes with the family. Okay. Now, the difference where it is, the difference which you will see that there has been like classification in the insurance policy, and with the time triggered, like when it came like in insurance wording in the DNO, the Lloyd's wording, side A came first, which is indemnifying. So what is indemnifying to the policyholder as a corporate is any reimbursement you are talking about. Okay. Then the second, which came as side B, and I will talk about further, and then side C, and probably now talking about side D as well. So there are stages of this policy which has evolved from the beginning. And I should mention as well here, while with the limitation of time, I'll run this, my presentation though, but I thought of it's more like, since I've gone in depth in D&O, and we have seen some issues, some cases, and especially I will also talk about our industry, which is, we are talking about the shipping industry, how it covers, where it can cover, and all those things. So, as you see, the director responsibility, normally as I was running, selecting, supervising, removing officers, it comes making policies and operational decisions, and determining financing and capital changes, and adopting, retracting, amending bylaws, supervising the welfare of the corporations. So you have a lot which can be covered. You name it, whereas it is your responsibility. At the end of the day, you cannot wash out from your responsibility as a director, as an officer of the company. Now, when I'm appointed as a director of a company, I have a duty of care, which is in good faith, a director performs his or her duties as a director, and in a manner he or she reasonably believes to be the best interest of the corporation, and in with such care as an ordinary prudent person in a like position would use in similar circumstances. This is what any company will hire a director, and the director understand that this is the duty of care which he has to perform and he has to deliver. And then at the same time, with that comes the loyalty of the director, so which is again a part of your duty to be loyal to the corporation, and the corporation must come first, not you when you take a decision or individual. And a director or officer may not use his position to make a personal profit or gain, inside trading, use of corporate opportunities. So any personal gain, any personal profit, if it goes in the market, exclusion from D&O. So don't think of while you have taken a D&O cover, that will cover. So that is first thing. And between, then now going towards transaction between a director and corporation usually require full disclosure and approval by a majority of the directors. So it's unless you are a single entity, that's different, but more than 2 directors are always required for any corporate. Duty of obedience, again, a director or officers must act within the power of the corporation and within the scope of his or authority. A director and officer may not enter into contract or take any action not within the authority of their office. Directors and officers should act in good faith and are personally liable towards stakeholders. And they need to pursue the highest standard of corporate governance, as I said earlier, move to a beyond compliance mindset. So definitely there's a lot of responsibility, while again going further, operating in more than one country, there are companies, and whereas you have different legislations of different soil, and then compliance, you have different regulation again internationally, you have best practices and in each territory. And so acting as an officer of the company or employee, which the definition of officer is very wide in some cases. If you take in in Weber, or you go to look for an officer could be different ranking, different positions, different dispensement of their duties, involvement. So further I'll tell you whom it covers and what it covers and who comes in what criteria. Taking a company public, like for example, if it is a public listed company, then what is covered if your stocks which are in a public listed company, and by any, as we say, by good faith, if you are involved for insider trading and if you are sued, make it you are not covered. Because those are which we say that these are intended crime. So there is no cover for any intended crime. So you should not think of like, yes, I have taken a D&O, so it will cover me for any intended crime. These are the covers by which by virtue of your dispensing your duties and at the time something which has happened, which was beyond your control, and then the other party, which is a third party, thinks of that you are liable. So it is not you individually, it is the corporate. And by having the directorship or shareholder of the company, you are liable. So this will cover you, though it will be dispensed through the corporate, but you at least will save your skin. Then, the mergers and acquisition. If you remember the 90s and after the dot-com, when the crisis, when it fell, and then there were a lot of, especially in Silicon Valley, we are talking about, there were a lot of mergers and acquisition which took place those days, and those companies does not exist anymore. There were lawsuits against the companies, and later on people were looking for. That was also the time when the side B came on the policy wordings, where I'll tell you again further. Emerging risk, as I said, cyber threats to organization. So DNO need to take responsibility for IT security. This is a board of director responsibility, not the IT department. Tomorrow you cannot just pass your buck and then brush your shoulders, says, no, this is the IT which should be taken in consideration. No, as a board of director, you are equally responsible. Now, so the governance model is stakeholders for board of directors. So if I take in consideration, this is an evolving cycle, which starts from the shareholders towards the employees and the customers and suppliers, and then civil activists, and then government and regulators, which you have. So this is an evolving cycle, and we all are part of this governance model. So anyone, if defaulting, apart from the written governance model, if you have a good governance in the company, there is a compliance manual. There is a governance documents. And then if you default on those, then, as I said, that intentionally, unintentionally, that we have to look into consideration. And further, you as insured can hire an attorney as a lawyer, deem fit, you feel that, who can better take care of your interest, protect you from any lawsuits, and there is no binding on the insurer to suggest you to choose a particular lawyer from their side. So unlike the insurance industry on the marine side, they might come and they say that, yes, we have a panel of surveyors, you can always use it in the event of any marine claim. But in the DNO, no, it is the insured who will decide, and then the competent legal person who is going to fight that legal battle. The insurers, they just have to pay their fees and all that. This is the big difference there. Now, so potential claimants, from where it will come. Shareholders' actions, as I said. So this is one of the area where the potential claimants can come. And usually the source for the majority of claims is DNO. We are talking directors and officers. And employees for labor-related issues, which always happens for any particular company. Sexual harassment, somebody takes you in the court, wrongful termination or promotion, they feel any discrimination, breach of employment contract. Then again, if you failure of the company to comply with necessary regulation or laws, these are the claimants. So mind it, I'm just giving you a rundown from where the claim might arise. I'm still not talking about what it will cover, the DNO. So these are the potential claimant from where you as a corporate, if you're running a company, where it will come from, or the third parties. The third parties, competitors, patent and copyright infringement, contract dispute, customers, dishonesty, fraud, lenders, liability, creditors. Now, potential claim triggers, which happens normally. Accounting and auditing practice, including inaccurate or inadequate disclosures, that is, which is, and we talk about listing or capital raise prospectus, misrepresentation, fluctuation of stock price. People normally, they go to fundraise, and these days there's a lot of, crowdfunders. They go with startup companies and then they cook the balance sheet, they cook, all those things. So these are there. So these are the potential claim which triggers. And again, the regulatory frameworks which you have in all the industry. So regulatory authorities' action, if the governmental, or employment-related disputes and HR issues, and shareholder actions, and then mergers and acquisitions, and breach of authority of officers, bankruptcy, or liquidation. So now, how to protect directors and officers? So this is the broadly indemnification is offered by the company. Not always clear as to legal situation and whether it is permissible. That individual person will know. The individual DNO pays from his or her own pocket. They are legally liable. These are the scenarios that are normal. And protection through insurance DNO policy, either if the company has bought it. These are the scenarios. Now, as I was telling you, side A, side B, and side C. So what side A is? A personal liability of company directors and officers as individual. That will come inside A, personal. So somebody will go, though it will be reimbursed, but the protection, not only directors and officers as individual, but sometimes it has happened with the family as well. So that will be covered. And which, of course, it's same like if someone has taken a group life policy, and the group life policy, when it comes to the claims, so when you sign after the demise of the person, the beneficiary will get this, but it will be dispersed to the insured, which is the first insured is the corporate, which is the company, and the company has the right to disperse to their beneficiaries. Side B, a company reimbursement cover for cases where the company has paid a third-party claim on behalf of directors and officers. And side C will be, these are for the listed companies, all which is on the security side, entity coverage for wrongful acts in connection with the trading of a listed company's security, claims against the company itself. So these are three side. D also I have not mentioned there. This is recent on the D side, as there are a few loopholes there, which on the D is still, so I have not covered on that. And while I continue with this, who are covered, insurance cover, let me put it this way again, that when the Lloyds, when they came in 1960, and after that, from 60 to until the 90s, there were huge claims, which came on the DNO. And then the ramification of this was 8 of the larger international insurers, reinsurers we are talking about, providing this coverage, they stopped writing DNO with exclusion with few. So 8 of the company, they had to wash their capital in terms of the claims which came. And then this side C came, because that was the time which is the buzzword was mergers mania, if you remember that. That was a mergers mania, whereas many of the companies abolished and they merged together. And then those directors and those shareholders, somehow they have shown their own balance sheet, whether it be cooked or whatever it was. They merged together, they listed the company, they went there, and later on the stock dropped. And then when the people they went to see, everything was zero before. I mean, in terms of hypothetically I'm talking about. So those were the time when they were sued. 8 of the company which those directors has taken, they had to pay for that. So they had to close that. So who is covered? Past, present, future directors, including retired directors, 7, and CEOs, managing directors, officer, undefined. That's why in bracket I said officers, undefined. Because I said there are different responsibilities, different of the officers. Employees while acting in a managerial or supervisory capacity, the company and subsidiaries as defined by the policy, but it has to be mentioned in the policy. And outside directors' liability, extension can be offered under DNO policies as well. Like if you have a executive director and you have a non-executive directors. And in the event if non-executive director, then you have to ask for an extension, which can be offered under DNO policies. And then legal hires, estates, legal representative cover, plus spousal liability. I was telling about the family. And then what is covered? Breach of duty and trust, warranty, or authority. These are neglect, error, misstatement, misleading statement, omission, employment practices such as wrongful termination, promotions, discrimination, sexual harassment, I have run this all, defense cost and court damages, investigation cover. Then main general exclusions. This is very important to understand. Everything, as we say, we never promise you a rose garden, so there are thorns as well comes from the garden when you go to pluck the flower. So these are exclusion sometimes. So intentional act of non-compliance on fraud, fines and penalties and civil. So these are the main general exclusions. Non-compensatory damage such as punitive damage somebody has taken, and then if you have any tax erosion, you think DNO will cover you, no. So any amount for which the insured is not legally liable, and professional indemnity, of course, you have a separate professional indemnity, so those cover will not be coming under DNO. And then you have a pollution separate cover. Cover can be offered for defense cost as well. Property damage, you have a property cover. Bodily injury, except corporate manslaughter. Prospectus exclusion, extension may be added. And then matters deemed uninsurable by law, and these are by law which is uninsurable, cannot be covered. Claims made under a previous policy, which was earlier, and then prior and pending litigation, if there is. So these are main general exclusion. Now factors to consider for underwriters consideration and for insurers, which they normally take care of these things, which is corporate governance, if the company should have. So this is for the understanding of the policy and for the insured before taking the policy, they should have in mind. So that's the reason I've highlighted here that financial stability of the company, they will look into compliance. If you are managing, they will look into accounting and auditing standards. They will look into market capitalization and stock performance, then changes in regulations and law. Have you complied? M&A activity, if you're done, in what terms, they will go through detail, listing on stock exchanges, plans to list, exposure of the client to highly litigious territories such as USA, industry sector they are operating in, and past claims experience. Now, just some case study, which I gave a little bit of, from our industry, which is from the shipping, and this is just a description. It shouldn't be construed as a reference to any particular case. This is for the understanding as a summary that in general information only, which is like a vessel capsizes resulting in loss of life among passengers and crew. Subsequent investigation reveals deficiency in the management of the vessel, and the coroner's report delivers a verdict of unlawful killing. This results in the prosecution of employees and the operating company for manslaughter. So this will be covered. Coverage provided, a DNO policy could cover the cost of defending these actions and indemnifying the company in respect of claims brought by shareholders. Hope I have not crossed my time. Just 5 minutes. A class action is instigated against a shipping company for violation of securities law as a result of their issuance of materially false financial information causing share value to drop. That's what it will be. Again, DNO policy could cover the cost of defending these actions and indemnifying the company in respect of claims brought by shareholders or regulatory authority. And oil tanker breaks up off the coast and causes pollution, which has happened a few times in here, and resulting in a large number of claims for compensation and class action. The governmental authorities and police charge the master ship owners and cargo owners. So DNO policy could cover the cost of defending these actions and indemnifying the company in respect of the downstream pollution claims brought by creditors, regulatory authorities, and shareholders. So these are the DNO liability insurance may offer protection from our industry. And I believe that's the end of my session, unless I keep on going because the time is not there. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I always put it like, you always have a time for a paradigm shift in whichever industry you are. Because don't put your head in the sand and think of for the tsunami or for the big tempest to come and save you. No, keep yourself up always. Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Sorry. We mentioned that negligency errors, those things are covered in DNO policies. And suppose there are two directors in a company and both are chartered accountants. Whether buying a professional liability policy or direct DNO policies, one can serve the purpose, isn't it?
See, I'll tell you, in insurance terminology, the dual cover is not allowed normally by underwriters. And if there is any dual cover, by chance in the event of claim, so accordingly, the trigger will be based on the submission of your claims which you put it. So to give you a typical example, sometimes, we say that yes, we have a marine open cover in marine, for example, okay, and then you, as a consignee, you bring the consignment, but at the same time, your term, which was you bought from the manufacturers, they have given with CIF term, which was already insurance which was covered, but in general, the company was having an open cover, so you submitted also from your side, and the claims happen in all good faith. The insurance company to the insured, direct insured, they will pay. But tomorrow, it's a worldwide network of reinsurers. If they might know that the manufacturer who has taken also the cover on the same case, on the same consignment, on this.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
This is not possible. It cannot be settled because there will be requirement of bill of lading in original and claim cannot be settled.
No, this has happened.
We'll
this
not
has
talk
happened
about
many
this
times.
Case.
No, this will not happen. This has happened. I can give you examples of this.
My question is specific.
So now
on
you're talking
PNI
about
policy and DNO policy. That's it.
Chartered accountant, you are talking about whether it be chartered accountant. In what capacity they are? They are shareholders of the company. As a chartered accountant, that is the job description if you talked about in the company. Here we are talking about the directors and officers of the company. So both are directors and officer of the company. But then the both people, they will have a different job descriptions. On that basis, if we talk about professional indemnity, only professional indemnity will cover for the wrongdoing of that particular person who was supposed to be. Yeah, please.
Sorry, my
now, if I don't understand, just clarify.
My question is specific. There are two chartered accountants. Okay, they can buy professional indemnity policy. Okay, and both are directors. Mostly, it is the case in small firms. So, the claim from third party because they were negligent and they have not advised their customers properly. Good possibility that their client may claim against them because of that they have suffered some losses. So whether they need to buy, it means the chartered accountancy firm need to buy separate DNO policy or PI policy. Your exclusion excludes professional indemnity.
Yes.
So I'm talking about the professional case where they are just giving advice and they are director as well.
Correct. So that will not trigger because the professional indemnity will only trigger for his, as I said again, the same question if I understand clearly, that professional indemnity will only trigger in the event of error and omission which was done by them, and that was a neglect of duty. That also not wrongful act of doing, like unintentional if it was. And here what we are talking about as well, that this is a cover whereas provide you bigger protection for legal suit. If someone, a third party which has taken in the court, and then you don't have to pay for the lawyer fees and all those things, and even the court judgment which will be, they will pay. Because here we are talking about the director of the company, which he will defend himself irrespective of whether it in good faith, and that is leave it to the court to decide after the judgment. We are not the people, we can say that. Everybody is innocent until found guilty, and that's the way. So this DNO will trigger there, and even at that particular point of time, in the case is going on, you have as a policyholder right to appoint a lawyer, and they will pay the fees, ongoing fee, while the matter is in the court.
PNI also covers the same concept.
PNI is a difference again.
PPI, professional indemnity, covers the legal cost.
No, that's what it is. But professional indemnity, individual. I'm talking about your only wrongdoing for that particular profession. Here, there are coverage which are bigger coverage against the corporate and the director and shareholders, whereas there could be a seal Whereas the ramification also is, which is called fraudulent. You,
Sorry, just to make it short.
Hmm.
The,
Yeah, anybody else? If any questions other than that, I'll sit with you. Then we can discuss. Any other question? If not, then so kind of you. Thank you very much. I'm humbled to be here and look forward to see you again. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, since we're running a bit late, we're going to keep lunch just 45 minutes. We're pushing ahead. We have 2 speakers after lunch, so we want to try and finish by around 3 o'clock. So if we can come back around 2, yeah. Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we have two more distinguished speakers to end the day by about 3 o'clock, just before 3. Our next speaker is Mr. Ahmed Abdul Ghadir, General Manager of PROSEC Middle East. Mr. Ahmed Abdul Ghadir started his career in the field of testing and instrumentation about 17 years ago in the Middle East region. He worked as an application specialist and area manager for the material testing instrument suppliers. Currently, he is working with PROSEC Middle East and Africa subsidiary located in the UAE in the capacity of general manager since 10 years, and with main focus on portable non-destructive testing for concrete properties, metal hardness and flaw detection product line. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Ahmed Abdul Ghadir.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege for me to be amongst you at this Shiptek conference, 9th edition. First of all, I would like to thank the Aries Group and the Biz TV, the organizer of this event, and I'd like to thank you for an opportunity to present an important topic over here, which is quite significant, and it's a pleasure. To start with, today's topic, as we all know, it's portable hardness testing for quick tests and to reduce maintenance, in fact, to prevent failure. Why testing? Simple answer, very scary. None of us would like to see this. Imagine what happened, and this is exactly the reason why we should go for testing and measurements. This is where the testing helps us, basically, not just to reduce maintenance costs, but also to prevent failure. Just to give a quick example, how does this help? If you just look into the history, one of the factors that was responsible for this accident was also because of the brittleness. So if you just look into this, I mean, mostly for the weld analysis, for the heat treatment processes, and after the hardening process, it's important that we do some testing before and after the hardening process to check the brittleness, basically. And that will help us to have it in a certain range that would help us to prevent failure, basically. So, if we just have a quick look here, in fact, it's very common to see the has failure when weld is still intact. This is something very important to look at. Cost reduction in commercial insurances. One accident, we just had a nice presentation on the insurance. One accident would lead to a huge insurance premium for the years to come. And avoiding downtimes, assurance in production consistency, compliance to directives, international guidelines, and health and safety assurance, and moreover, the peace of mind, the environmental benefits we get. Just to give a quick view on different testing, for example, on the portable hardness testers, we have the Rockwell hardness tester. That's basically the same stationary hardness tester, which is based on the true indentation method. And we have the Lieb hardness tester. That's the dynamic hardness tester, the world's first portable hardness tester, which was invented about 40 years ago in Switzerland. And UCI, the ultrasonic contact impedance technique for the portable metal hardness testing. The other important testing is the flaw detection. where we can detect flaws, we can detect defects, we can size the defects, and also for corrosion mapping, these kind of testing. And definitely for thickness profiling, the ultrasonic thickness gauge. Just to have a quick portfolio on the new IoT base, we see how fast the world is changing, the technologies are changing, and we can see how the industry is moving towards IoT, the Internet of Things. So basically, now the new products that come are also IoT based when it comes to wireless flaw detector or the advanced wireless flaw detector with the phase arrays on the top. That's in the pipeline. If you just have a quick look on the areas, the application areas, basically we are talking about thickness profiling, we are talking about the conventional UT, we are talking about the time of flight diffraction, which is TOF, and the phased arrays, these are the common tests that are done in the shipping and marine industry and as well as in the oil and gas industry. Basically, the objectives for inspection, the control of manufacturing, and for example, for the raw material production plants, the constructed, the part integrity, basically we mainly at the fabricators, and also when it comes to on-site inspection service providers, there are so many third-party inspection service providers. They offer very professional services. So these are some of the main areas, or the main objectives for the inspection. Looking at having a quick look at the ultrasonic technology, basically for thickness, this is basically the principle we are talking about. It's a echo. We send the echo and then it is received back, then the conventional UT. And when it comes to TOF, the time of flight diffraction, if there are any defects, we can size the defects and also the phased arrays. I'm not going to look deeper into flaw detection. However, we'll just talk more on the portable hardness testing today. When it comes to the portable hardness testing, it is also important to know that the world's first dynamic portable hardness tester was the LEAB, the EquaDip. This was actually invented in Switzerland about 40 years ago, and there is a history here. And today, the new one is the EquaDip 550 with the touch screen and all, and the IoT-based solution, basically that works wirelessly with your iOS devices. So it has become very simple, mainly the IoT-based one, wireless, pocket size, leverages with the latest iOS devices, secures data on cloud and for reporting and different purposes. Why hardness? Hardness is because it's linked to the thermomechanical history of the materials. It's for the strength. Hardness has a very good correlation with the tensile strength of the material or the yield strength, ductility or plasticity, the brittleness, the fatigue resistance, the wear characteristics, the texture, and also for the corrosion. So basically, it's a process control to monitor the mechanical properties of the material for allowing for heat treatment, welding, etc. And we believe that hardness of metals can be measured with relative ease and the damage. So basically, we are talking as a non-destructive technique for hardness measurement for on-site applications. So hardness is a process parameter for various methods. So hardness is usually described as the resistance of the material against penetration. There were definitions in 1812 by Morse and Lieb in 1975. That's the energy lost through an impact. So basically the definition has changed. It's more related to the kinetic energy that is lost basically. And then from the traditional methods, the static benchtop laboratory-based machines, then there was an evolution in the portable hardness techniques with this new definition in 1975 by Mr. Dietmar Lee. Just a quick slide to see the three most common hardness scales in the industry. The first one is the Brinell. It has a ball indenter. It exerts a fixed force. There is an indentation. We measure the indentation depth and the area and calculate the hardness value. Whereas in the other most common hardness scale is the Vickers. It has a conical diamond, and basically again it's the same indentation method. And the Rockwell, again it has a 120 degrees conical diamond, basically with a fixed force. It is the indentation is done, and then we measure the indentation depth from the peak load to the preload. This is how the hardness value is calculated. So traditional methods, there were, the industry was more dependent on the traditional methods, where a benchtop or a laboratory-based test was there. This is where PROSEC played a major role. The technology was invented that's called as the Lieb by Mr. Dietmar Lieb, and the Equity was the first portable hardness tester in 1975. Since then, it's the most established in the market so far. Just to have a quick look, traditional versus the portable ones. If it is the laboratory-based, its object under testing needs to be transported to the measuring equipment. This implies, again, additional cost and time. Any tested objects become scrap because it's a destructive test. Selective, 100% testing is not possible. In contrary, if you look at the portable, then it's easy to use handheld unit to maximize accessibility. It can be easily used for on-site testing. It's a non-destructive technique, so basically we are not preparing the sample, or also we are not going to scrap the sample anymore. And the good thing is 100% testing is quite possible now on-site. There are several test methods and the international guidelines for this testing. So for Equitip, there are ISO, DIN, ASTM, and for Equitip Portable Rockwell, it's DIN and ASTM measurement is already in progress. And for the ultrasonic contact impedance, for the UCI, we have DIN and the ASTM established test methods. Leap principle. Let us just have a quick look on the leap principle. Leap is one of the oldest portable test method, as I said, and it's basically the way it works. It's the principle. Leap rebound hardness method is based on the loss of energy of an impact. So basically, it has an impact device which is propelled against the test surface with a fixed kinetic energy, and soon after the impact, a part of kinetic energy is lost, and then it measures the velocity just before and after the impact. That's the impact velocity basically, before and after the impact at a fixed place from the test sample, and then it is the hardness value is calculated based on that. So this is how it is. It's just Equitip Leap method on the impact and rebound velocity. It's the impact phase and the rebound phase, and then we calculate the hardness value. And a perfect solution for different applications, because there are so many different applications. We are talking about D unit, which is more universal, but DL is the slim foot over here for restricted areas and to test in the base of the grooves. G is good for heavy components, for heavy castings and forgings. And C is mostly on the surface hardened components with lower impact energy or with the coating, so we don't damage the coating or the test surface. And S and E are for extremely hard materials, high carbon content, like tool steels and tool steels with high carbon content inclusions basically. E has a diamond indenter again, and the DC is the short device which is used more commonly for testing the hardness in the inner side of the tubes and the components. So it's most appropriate Leap method based on the durability study. If you look at the different devices over here, then mostly the D device, it can last for up to 300,000 impacts, whereas the S device has much more. But if you use on the high hardness above 56 HRC, then the D device will wear off soon. This is where we need the S or the E device with the diamond indenter, which is pretty good for high carbide content materials. So it's most appropriate Leap method based on the durability case study here we can see. So automatic verification, this is one of the nice method, because today everything that we do, it's questionable whether the instrument was verified, was it calibrated or not. So one of the nice features now is we can also verify the instrument on site on a certified standard test block and save the data. So this data can be saved as a verification data, and then when we do the test, we can also include the verification data along with the test data, which increases the reliability or the credibility. So I'm not going to go deeper into different steps which talks about the serial number, the probe type, the verification date, the standards that are used, the uncertainty factors we need to consider, and then finally we can start preparing the test surface, and then we can do the test, and it can be verified on site immediately. Some of the interesting applications used in the field of fabricated components here. This was in Hamria free zone, and leap tester being used on a cast sample. Ideal application for heavy and large components. So it's being used on very high hardened carbon material. So, and the other commonly known technique is the portable Rockwell. We all know in the industry the Rockwell hardness, which is the basis of the hardness measurement basically. So now the same benchtop hardness measuring, the Rockwell indentation type method, has been reduced to low load and portable, which is also become an non-destructive tester because the indentation is micro indentation type. So basically it has a diamond indenter, and it's a the method is becoming a preferred test principle for many industries. Over here we can see some of the applications over here. On-site NDT hardness testing based on the true indentation. So it's not a comparator, it's a true indentation. Like a direct hardness measurement relies on indentation, that is based basically on the material's plastic properties, and it's independent of material, of course. And test piece geometries are not a major issue. So we have different geometries, adapters are offered in order to suit the geometry of the sample. Verification, again, this is one of the nice functions that comes with this. If you just have a quick look on the principle of the Rockwell testing, this is the same benchtop Rockwell testing principle. Basically, there is a preload of 10 newtons, and then we apply the test load, and then the indenter will further deform, the sample is deformed, and then there is an indentation. And then basically we release the peak load, and we measure the indentation depth between the peak load and the preload, which is exactly the Rockwell hardness testing principle. So here where the plastic deformation is measured, so this is taken as a benchtop, the basis for the hardness testing. So basically we measure, this is measured based on the plastic deformation of the material. This is where it is independent of the material. For hard materials, we can see the curve over here, and basically for soft material where the indentation is more, deformation in the sample is larger. So we can see this. Importance of verification for sample thickness requirement for indentation methods. If you just have a quick look on this slide, basically if we see this, for example, for 15 micron indentation depth, if we need to have 10 times the indentation depth. So basically we are talking about 15 into 10 is 150 micron. So the minimum sample thickness to measure with the portable Rockwell instrument is almost 150 microns in this case. Definitely depends on the hardness. It's almost 47 HRC. At this hardness, the indentation depth would be about 15 microns, and the test piece thickness is required for about 150 microns. So very thin. So we'll be able to measure 0.15 millimeter thickness sample using this method. It's very accurate, being a static and most established in the market. So it's quite adequate. Test preparation is the key because the indentation is micro indentation. We can, and then the surface preparation is the key. Avoid heat and cold working when grinding, or just use the as per the ISO grade, just the sandpapers, the appropriate sandpapers. There's a guide for this, and we can also have a comparator, basically a small comparator, surface test comparator, and we can prepare the test. So basically, this is how, when we prepare the sample using the comparator, we can always check what degree of surface preparation is needed. Quickly we can cross-check with the comparator. Surface roughness will always affect the repeatability. So this is very important, and we can see the different sandpaper as per the ISO. There are different sandpaper numbers over here. So by using different sandpapers, we can achieve different surface roughness. Some of the applications here, being used on a heat exchanger, being used on a heat exchanger component, compressor housing. So it's simple, portable, easy. And the third established technique for hardness measurement is the UCI, the ultrasonic contact impedance. Again, a non-destructive testing method. In the industry, we had always seen that there were several probes being offered for UCI solution, for HV1 for turbines, HV5 for welds, HV10 for forgings or castings. But now we are offering a new technology that was invented, developed basically, to have the same probe with selectable loads. So it comes with only single probe with selectable loads, HV1 to HV5 and then to HV10 as well. So we can just select the load in a drop-down menu and we are good to go. So UCI test principle, basically it has a resonating rod, it has a conical diamond again, and then is generally referred to as, UCI, ultrasonic contact impedance, although it's generally referred as UCI, and it has a resonating rod interconnected to the indenter. Basically, we measure the frequency shift in this case. So every material had some frequency, so basically the resonating rod resonates at an ultrasonic speed, and then we measure on a test piece and then on the sample, and basically we measure the shift in the frequency and then relate the hardness value to it. This is one of the traditional, it is also closely linked to the traditional Vickers test, but portable and compact. Unique features for UCI, it's advanced programmable test load to accommodate various specifications. As I said, it has electronically adjustable test load, so we don't have to carry several probes on the site, just one is quite sufficient. Combined method, in some cases it is also recommended by ASME and NOTES Institute. They have their test guidelines wherein they recommend combining some different hardness techniques to verify one technique with the other, and also in some cases to correlate one hardness technique with the other, especially with the portable Rockwell and the UCI. And definitely the hardness mapping wizard. Traceable reference test block, roughness plate, and the special foot. So this is where there is a traceable reference test block supplied as a standard to verify the calibration of the device on site. Basically a roughness comparator plate also supplied as a standard, and a universal foot to test the tubes as well as the flat samples. Different applications, there are, this is where the adjustable test load for variable thickness and mass, here from HV1 to HV10, it's minimum 0.3 kilogram mass, recommended thickness for 5 millimeter and above, basically. If you just look at here, so this is where all different test loads are available with the inclusion of HV10 recently. So basically we can, with the drop down, with this on the screen, we can just select the appropriate load and then we can do the test. Weld and has inspection using the profile view. This is one of the interesting applications. So basically we can generate a hardness profile this way. So basically based on this, the weld, we can generate the hardness profile right on the device and save it for the reporting purpose, analysis and reporting. The application 3 is for testing exotic materials, the Inconel or the duplex steel. Inspection of vessels and the heat exchangers and the mapping wizard. So basically we can also have the mapping wizard with different limits. So just at a glance we can create a contour map where we can see the green portion, which is quite good enough, but with the yellow suspicious and the red ones are not satisfactory. So it creates a good map for the hardness on that sample. Again, turbine blades and components with complex geometries, which has been always a challenge. So with the UCI, with the precise positioning and the lower thickness up to 5 millimeter, we can easily address this application as well. Number 6, on-site correlation for LEAB and or the UCI or to the portable Rockwell. This is also one of the, as I said, the ASME and the NOTES reports, they strongly recommend combining the different hardness techniques because there are different applications. When the samples are very thin, less than 1 millimeter, less than 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter, in that case, the portable hardness, the Rockwell type is the best suitable technique. It's static and gives more reliable data. Whereas for higher thickness, large components and heavy samples, in that case, LEAB is the most established technique. And the UCI is very for precise positioning on the welds and the heat affected zones, especially for weld and HAZ testing, UCI is the most established technique. So based on the application, we can use different techniques, and in some cases, we can also combine different methods in order to achieve the most reliable data. And also correlation, on the device itself, we can also correlate with one hardness technique to the other, basically by just shifting the curve by just 1 point. It's a 1 point shift or 2 point shift, or we can also do the polynomial shift. In this case, we have just shifted by 24 Vickers, basically. Portable Rockwell, it was 25.6 microns indentation depth. UCI gave 231.3 Vickers, so there was a difference in minus 24 Vickers. So basically, this was shifted, so we shifted the curve by 24 Vickers, and then customizing your own curve or calibrating using the hardness technique, we can calibrate and then measure the hardness using the customized curve. Here, just to have a quick one, the new platform, it accommodates all different probes based on different hardness techniques. Like we call it all-in-one hardness testing solution, rugged probe with exceptional repeatability, variable test load with a single probe for the UCI, unique interactive wizards, combined method, hardness mapping, profile view for heat affected zones. So it's all new functionalities which are very much user friendly, especially the wizards for new users. It's an automatic guideline for a new user how to do a test. So these are again the UCI. In some, just to have various industries in compliance to international standards. Here there is a list: oil and gas, automotive, definitely the shipping as well, most of the applications in the shipping industry, the aerospace, manufacturing and machinery, and all these are the international guidelines that complies to. And based on this applications, we can choose the most appropriate method for that particular industry. Hardness conversions allow comparison to other test methods, no mathematical correlations. There's no empirical formula for mathematical correlation. It's the conversion as per the ASTM E140, ISO 16825, which are the standard tables accepted worldwide. The portfolio, just to have a quick look, there is a pocket size Piccolo Bambino, which is well known in the industry for pocket size with the integrated display. The Equitip Live is the IoT based, the latest technique which leverages with the latest technologies like the iOS devices. It connects wirelessly via Bluetooth to any iPhone or iPod or the iPad, and basically we can do all the testing. All data is saved on your iOS tablet, and the data is also secured on the cloud. And the platform is the Equitip 550, which combines all the three hardness techniques with the same one display unit. So just a quick look how easy it is on the different geometries, different applications. It has an integrated display, compact, and a large display to read. It saves the data. Automation is quite possible in some industries, like Toyota, for example. They use an automated assembly for continuous checking the hardness on the cylinders. Equitip Live, this is the latest one, basically. As I said, there is a green over here. The yellow, when we switch on, the yellow ring shows that the Bluetooth is on. It turns to green color when it is connected to your iOS device. It's simple. Two different techniques can be used. The app is free on the iOS store. Anyone can download this app on their iOS device, and you can create an account that with an instrument. So the good thing is via Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, it connects easily, and then with the app we can start using the instrument. So multicolor status LEDs after connection, standard AA batteries, so no issue of carrying it on board. and also its ergonomic design. This is for the leap technique, and this is for the UCI, the ultrasonic contact impedance, HV1 to 10 again with the selectable lobes. So now it has been so easy and simple that on our iPhone or the iPod, we can easily select the material, select the curve, we can have an alphanumeric name, and then we can have all the data on the Apple device. So basically we are talking about all the data, average, there's a mean and total number of tests. All this data is available. The readings are here in HLD and HRC in 2 different hardness scales, and basically individual readings are here. We can also see the bar charts. And we can instantly generate the report. Today, data, when we have just seen a presentation talking on the data, the importance of data, all the raw data, as soon as we have internet connection, 4G or Wi-Fi on the tablet, the data will synchronize, the data will be secured on the cloud, and it will be ready for post-test analysis and generating a report. Also, we can generate an instant report as a PDF or as a CSV file, and we can immediately share with our colleagues by email. Customizable materials for any uncommon alloys. For new engineering materials, we can always customize, create our own curve by making a 1-point shift or 2-point shift, or in also the polynomial curve, basically, easily right on the device itself on site. Verification, this as we spoke, verification is also very important, and the verification can also be done on our iOS device right on site, and we can save the verification data along with the test data. So here we can see the verification is done over here. It gives a green check mark, otherwise it gives a red cross which shows that verification failed. Again, there's a nice logbook feature for instant report generation. Here it talks about the instrument, the serial number, and all about the Bluetooth module, the operator, and then it gives all the details about the test. It has a GPS geolocation, and we can add text and audio comments over here, and also we can add photos of the test sample or the site, basically to explain that particular test. And within few seconds we do this, and we can generate a PDF report or export it as a PDF or a CSV file. Also, now it also works with the Apple Watch. So all the data, it's not only saved on your Apple device, but also it works pretty well with the Apple Watch. So we can also see the data right on the Apple Watch itself. Web reporting web tool. This is an interesting application, especially today in the today's modern world where people travel for business from one place to the other. While all the tests are being done, there's an interesting web tool. Every instrument comes with a username and password. So anywhere in the world, when the supervisors or the managers, when they're traveling, they can access to the data in real time through this web tool. Basically on their PC, they can enter the username, password, live.prosec.com, the servers, and you can access the data in real time. While the technicians are there on different locations on site, you can view the data, you can generate a test report without asking anyone instantly, basically. So we save a lot of time and labor in this case. So this is where high connectivity, it connects via Bluetooth to different hardness techniques. Web tool is a nice tool, especially when we are traveling anywhere in the world through cloud. We can access the data in real time, and also we can instantly generate reports as a PDF or CSV and share with our colleagues or our customers. So how should a portable hardness test be performed? First thing is the instrument verification on the standard test block that is supplied, and then example in case of leap, at least 3 indentations on the hardness reference block are made. The size of the metallic block used for calibration shall not, there are guidelines as per the ASTM A956 for the test block as well. So for different techniques, there are guidelines from the international test methods, and then we can verify the instrument. So systematic verification helps reduce costs and maintains the productivity. So failures can occur in any number of ways and are often caused by simple oversights. Like such failures adversely affect overall productivity and the profitability. Taking steps to prevent failure by non-destructive testing technique can yield positive results, both in terms of productivity as well as the profitability. Portable hardness tests provide an easy tool of NDT of roles. For example, choose the most suitable test technique. As I said, there are, for heavy and bulk components, LEAB is the most established technique, gives more reliable and repeatable, consistent data. For very thin samples, portable Rockwell works very well, and especially when it comes to welds and heat-affected zones, the UCI is the most established because of the precise positioning of the instrument is possible on the welds and the hats. So, combining different methods to maximize accuracy of a verification process, compliance to international testing methods and the guidelines provide assurance that the instrument is functioning properly. So basically, it's the portable hardness testing for quick tests and to reduce maintenance cost and prevent failure. Thank you very much. If there are any questions related. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for that good, informative presentation. Our next distinguished guest is Ms. Natalie Jensen, solicitor. Natalie practices contentious and non-contentious matters in the shipping, international trade, and energy sectors. Natalie advises a broad range of clients, including ship owners, charterers, cargo interests, P&I clubs, and insurers in connection with disputes arising out of charter parties, bills of lading, contracts of affreightment, and other contracts of carriage. Natalie has a wide experience in commercial litigation in both English High Court and maritime arbitration. Please put a warm welcome for Natalie.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me this afternoon. It's a pleasure to speak here at Shiptek. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Natalie Jensen. I'm a senior solicitor at Inson Co, specialising in shipping and marine insurance. I'm going to be talking to you today about limitation of liability in the UAE, which is a topic that's quite close to my heart because I've had a few claims recently in respect of this topic, and it's something that is really exciting for a lawyer because it's not the type of claims they're not the type of claims that come across your desk every day. There's usually a large-scale incident, high-profile collision or elision, and high quantum involved, which often involves strategic decision-making. So in terms of an overview, what we're going to cover is the meaning of limitation, when it applies, the international conventions that are in play and how they apply. We're going to briefly look at limitation funds and also the position in the UAE. So we're going to look at the Maritime Code and also the new developments in case law. I'm conscious that as a northeastern English person, I speak relatively quickly and with an accent, so if that becomes too much, please just pop your hands up. Thank you. Okay, so what does limitation mean? Well, basically, ship owners are entitled to limit their liability for certain claims. And ship owners is construed very widely. It includes owners, charterers, managers, operators, and also liability insurers. So the liability insurers are able to stand in the place of the principal. The international conventions seek to strike a balance between offering compensation to a successful claimant but also allowing the ship owners entitled to limit their liability to also obtain insurance at a reasonable premium. So in terms of international conventions at play, there are three. So there's the 1924 Limitation Convention, the 1957 Convention, and the 1976 Convention. Now here, the 1976 Convention is the most widely used, so we're concentrating on that, and it's also been ratified by the UAE. There have been several amendments to the 1976 Convention, and these amendments increase the limits of liability. So you'll see reference to a 1996 Protocol and 2015 amendments. The UAE has not ratified those changes, so it's the 1976 Convention, the unamended convention, that actually applies. Okay, so when does limitation apply? Article 2 of the 1976 Convention sets out a broad list of categories as to when it applies, but put very simply, it applies to loss of life, personal injury, damage to property, and delays for cargo, passengers, and luggage, as well as the likes of wreck removal and jettison of cargo. There are a number of exceptions in the Convention, which are generally for public policy reasons. So I'm not going to go through them all, but it's essentially claims for salvage, contributions in general average, claims relating to oil pollution or nuclear damage. So you can understand why those types of claims would be excluded from limitation of liability for public policy reasons. So a person may they may be able to limit their liability if they are in the group that we've discussed, that they're ship owners within the meaning of the Convention. Their claim falls within Article 2, so it's one of the broad list of categories that we've mentioned. It's not exempted by Article 3, but they may not be able to limit if their conduct has been such that they shouldn't be able to limit their liability. So to break limitation, it's actually very, very difficult, and it's a very, very heavy burden of proof that is on the claimant. In fact, it's virtually unbreakable. So in the UK, there's only really one reported case, the Atlantic Confidence, in which limitation was broken by reason of conduct. So the test to break limitation is obviously very, very stringent. Now, to do so, the damage must have arisen because of the wrongdoing of the person entitled to limit his liability, not his servants or agents. So it's not enough that the master did something wrong, it has to have been the controlling minds of the company, so the owners, and the court looks at that very closely. In fact, the owners have to be acting intentionally or recklessly, and they have to have known that the type of damage caused was probable as a result of the action. So in terms of calculation of liability, this is based on the tonnage of the vessel. So the greater the tonnage, the greater the limitation sum. And actually, the type of unit used is the special drawing rights, which is defined by the International Monetary Fund. You can see on the slide that the actual amounts have increased quite significantly in the 1996 protocol and the 2015 limits. I appreciate that SDRs are relatively abstract, so I've tried to give an example here. So this is based on a 131,000 deadweight ton vessel. Under the 1976 convention, which is applicable in the UAE, the property fund for limitation of liability would be 20.8 million. Under the 1996 protocol, it would be around 50 million. And under the 2015 amended limits, you're looking at about 75 million. So you can see that actually it really does matter which regime is applicable, and the difference there is quite significant. So why is this important? Well, any person that is alleged to be liable may constitute a fund with a court or competent authority in any state party in which legal proceedings are instituted in respect to a claim subject to limitation. The fund has to be constituted in a form that is acceptable to the state party, so that could be cash being deposited at court, a bank guarantee. The UK has decided that an LOU is an acceptable form of security. But essentially, to limit against more than one claimant in more than one court, a limitation fund is really inevitable, because it means that where a limitation fund is constituted, then action can't be taken against other assets of the person that has established the limitation fund. So it really allows the ships to continue to trade freely. So that is a very important point in terms of ensuring that business can go on as usual while matters are sorted out. I thought it would be quite useful just to show you the regimes applicable in major jurisdictions. So in the UK, there are the 2015 higher limits. In Hong Kong, they also have the higher limits. Singapore is the same as in the UAE in that the 1976 limits apply, so they do not have the higher limitation amounts. And South Africa, which is known as a very friendly shipping arrest jurisdiction, they have their own domestic regime, which is modelled on an old convention, 1957, as amended in the 70s. So that again is not, nowhere near the 1996 protocol and 2015 limits. So what about the UAE? Well, the position has been unclear for some time, and the recent position, there's actually been some guidance given in a case that I have been running, which is very welcome guidance in the UAE. Essentially, the UAE has ratified the 1976 convention, but it hasn't incorporated a mechanism for establishing a limitation fund, which is obviously difficult because international conventions need to be implemented in local law. So essentially it's a very untested and unfamiliar area with no guidance as to how a limitation fund should be established until recently. The UAE Maritime Code also sets out a separate limitation of liability regime, which for some time has been in conflict with the convention, albeit that Article 8 of the Maritime Code actually states that international conventions which have been ratified by the UAE supersede domestic law. So in that sense, the 1976 convention, which has been ratified by the UAE, should supersede the domestic maritime code. That said, it's quite useful to just understand what it means, and the calculation of liability can actually wildly differ under the UAE Maritime Code. That is because it's based on the net tonnage and the spaces occupied by the machinery and engines of the vessel. That's really not a simple calculation, and often you don't have enough information to be able to carry out that type of calculation. The ship owner may be able to work out what the net tonnage and spaces occupied by machinery and engines are, but if you're on for the opponents, it's often quite difficult to do that. That said, you can see by the figures involved that the limitation under the UAE Maritime Code is significantly less than under the convention. There's no legislation in the UAE that deals with the establishment of a limitation fund. Now, Article 143 of the Maritime Code deals with depositing funds at court as security for potential claims, and that's thought to be, acceptable to deposit cash or a bank guarantee at court. But again, in the same manner, it's important once security is deposited with the court here that the claimant can't then take steps against the other assets of the person that's established the funds, so the liable person. So up until recently, we have not been issued any guidance in respect of the establishment of limitation funds. It's been an untested area, but we have been trying to change that, and we have had some success in doing so. So we have obtained a very successful judgment from the Dubai World Tribunal in respect of limitation, and it's the first judgment of its kind in the UAE. We acted for the owners of the vessel, so Elise 96 and CMA, and the vessel in berthing at the Jebel Ali container terminal actually collided with the port and caused some damage to cranes and facilities. A claim was brought in the Dubai World Tribunal because the port is operated and owned by Dubai World, and the Dubai World Tribunal was set up to deal with claims by or against Dubai World entities. So on behalf of our clients, we sought a declaration that they were entitled to constitute a limitation fund by way of club letter of undertaking, P&I club letter of undertaking, or directions as to how such a fund should be constituted. And our opponents sought to set that aside for want of jurisdiction. They wanted the DWT to say that they didn't have jurisdiction, and even if they did, that those claims would be set aside and the DWT would not exercise its jurisdiction. Jurisdiction was very important for our opponents because the alleged claim was in the region of 27.5 to 30 million on an initial estimate, with scope for an increase on that amount. So we started it in the Dubai World Tribunal. Obviously this was a favourable jurisdiction for our clients because the limitation amount is 20.8 million, but that would result in a shortfall for our opponents if they were successful in their claim. You'll see that the 1996 protocol and the 2015 amended limit are very favourable for our opponents. So jurisdiction became quite a battle in this case. For us, it was obviously preferable to be in the UAE, but for our opponents, it was preferable to be in a 2015 amended limit jurisdiction. And with that in mind, they commenced claims in both London and in Hong Kong, which both have the increased 2015 limitation. So you'll see that there was a difference of potentially 55 million if they could in fact get their claim up to that amount. So the DWT considered the jurisdiction application first, and they considered that the DWT had jurisdiction, so it was a body created to deal with claims by or against Dubai World entities. That was the whole idea behind the tribunal being set up. And also they thought that Dubai was the natural forum for the claim because the incident happened here, Dubai World were based here, and also witnesses and other experts, parties were all based in Dubai, so it just had that feel of being a natural forum. In terms of our application to establish a limitation fund, the DWT was satisfied that our clients were persons alleged to be liable under the convention. Our opponents argued that the DWT should require a cash deposit or a bank guarantee. They said that that was the established practice in Dubai. We argued that that wasn't the case, and actually there's no guidance at all in terms of how to establish a limitation fund. So the DWT agreed with us and actually said that there was no such guidance, and all that needed to be done by the to comply with the convention was to ensure that this form of security was adequate and acceptable to the DWT. So it was in their remit to do so, and they considered that an LOU as a security for the limitation fund was actually acceptable. So the position in Dubai, it's been unclear for some time, and the judgment from the DWT is welcomed guidance. Obviously, the judgment is not from the Dubai court, it's from the Dubai World Tribunal, but that shouldn't make a difference because both courts apply UAE law and principles. So from a lawyer's perspective, this really was a groundbreaking decision which should have far-reaching consequences. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
In case of pollution, oil spill, could be the implications could be unlimited liability.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the position in the USA, but under the convention, excluded claims include oil pollution, so that is a separate convention in entirety. So limitation of liability in terms of this topic don't really come into play in that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
It is the
Yes, it's a wide range of maritime code that's used here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you one and all, and it was indeed a spectacular session. Here is a small mention on our sponsors. Gold sponsor, Archipelago. Principal sponsor, American Bureau of Shipping, ABS. Lunch sponsor, Inchcape Shipping Services. Badge and lanyard sponsor, Al Bawardi Daman. Delegate bag sponsor, P&O Maritime. Award sponsor, Cadmatic Software Solutions. Conference session sponsor, Lukoil. Associate sponsors are ADSB, Consulate of Panama, SAFE, Foresight Offshore, Arca Global Marine Services, Bureau Veritas, Fostrams and Inter-Ocean Ship Repair LLC. So, I request Mr. Sohan Roy, Founder, Chairman and CEO of Ares Group of Companies, to kindly present the certificates of appreciation to our moderator and speakers of today. First, I request Mr. Jamal Al-Ali, Manager, Fleet Engineering Group, Kuwait Oil Tanker Company, our esteemed moderator, to kindly accept our token of appreciation. Can we have a loud round of applause, please? Thank you, sir. Next, I invite Mr. Abdullah El Suleiman, Environmental Service Manager, Fair Deal Group, to accept the certificate. Thank you, sir. Now I request Captain Valerio De Rose, Marine Manager, Board Drilling Management, DMCC, to accept the certificate. Thank you, sir. Next, I invite Mr. Amarendra Kumar, Project Manager, DNVGL, to accept the certificate. Thank you, sir. I now request Mr. Aftab Hassan, CEO, Arya Insurance Brokerage Company, to kindly receive the certificate. Thank you, sir. I call upon Mr. Ahmed Abdul Gadir, General Manager, Prosec Middle East, to join us on stage and accept our token of appreciation. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Ms. Natalie Jensen, Solicitor, Dubai, to accept the certificate. Ma'am and sir, if you could just kindly stay back on the stage. And I request all our esteemed speakers to please join us on the stage along with our moderator. And if you could, yes, bring your certificates as well.
Thank you everyone, and special thanks to our speakers and moderator for making this event a successful one. With this, we have come to an end of this interesting event. It's a 2-day conference, a Shiptek International Maritime Conference and the awards. Thank you everyone for your support. We hope you all had an exceptional great time and all the conference presentations were informative. We thank you again for the support extended. We look forward for the next year event, which is the 10th event, the conference for the Shiptek. We need your support as usual, and we want to make it a grand success the next year as well. Thank you everyone. Thanks for the support. We hope you all had a safe drive. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Thank you.